This is Emerald Coast Morning with Dan Diamond on News Talk 1260 WFTW.
And good morning. It is, about 7:12 right now, mostly sunny, about 78 degrees. Going to get up probably in the triple digits again today for that the heat index. It's going to be a nice hot one today. And these guys in here, they love hot weather. No, we really don't. We lie a lot. In the studio with me, I have Tom Rice from the Magnolia Grill. And special guest today is Colonel retired Samuel Lombardo. And you're 100 years old, and I would never, ever suspect you're 100 years old. This guy is spry. I would suspect about 80 years old, and I'm not joking.
Thank you.
My gosh, Sam, you look great. I like the red, white, and blue suspenders you've got and the red shirt. And, well, even though you're Army, we still welcome you into the studio.
That's the only reason I'm because of Tom Rice.
Well, you two Army guy. Usually I'm not the one that's the minority in this area when it comes to military, but today I am.
That's not okay. Often. Army Air Corps, father of the modern Air Force.
Well, that's
Hap Arnold.
I guess we're related.
As an Army general,
we're related.
We're related.
I gotcha. And Sam, welcome in here. We've been talking off air, and you have a lot of stories out of 100 years. You've got a whole lot of stories, and I know
lots of them.
You really do.
Hours, I can speak for hours. Because of my different specialties, and where I moved, everything was so different. I said people that live in one spot all their life are limited as the amount of friends you have, and so forth. But I moved so many times, but I also had a lot of different talents. Like I learned masonry, and then I had the ranch. And I learned all about growing avocados and grafting. Then I had a winery, and I made wine for 12 years. And then it cost so much to go, it would take 10 years to break even. So we backed off. We still made the wine, and we invited 75 people in at bottling. Everybody took a bottle home. They all wanted me to come back. It was a fun. We kept it going. We did it for 12 years.
Oh, very
12
good.
years. It was great fun.
So what did you make? Red wine, white wine?
All kind.
Yeah.
I also lucked out. The friend who came to my birthday had a winery 10 miles away, but he had a test pad just half a mile from where I lived. In the test pad, they had 2 rows of 10 different kinds of grapes. He said, Sam, you can have it all. And at that time, Chardonnay was $1,000 a ton. And I could have every variety. So I tried everything that was good, from Petit Syrah, Cabernet, Zinfandel, Chardonnay for the whites. I tried them all. I even made sherry, and I even made port. And I was surprised that my best friend brought a bottle of port that I made 30 years ago.
Oh,
and we had it at the party.
30 years ago.
30 years. It was a little oxidized, but it still tasted pretty good.
Golly.
Dan, before we get too deeply in this, I want one of Sam's great stories that he talked about at the Veterans Heritage Project up at the college several months ago was seeing the Statue of Liberty 2 times, 2 special times in his life. And if we got a couple of minutes, tell us about the first time you saw the Statue of Liberty, and tell us about the second time that it was an important event for you.
Yeah, let's hear the first time.
Okay, the first time, it took 12 days to come over in a ship, of course, and my whole family
from
was
Italy.
there.
How old?
I was 10 years old. We were down deck, 2 or 3 decks down. And I wanted to be the first to see the Statue of Liberty. That's all we talked about, the Statue of Liberty, the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
So at 5 o'clock or so in the morning, my mother and 2 sisters still asleep. I snuck out of the stateroom. Can you imagine her waking up and not seeing an empty bunk?
Oh, no kidding.
So I went out quietly, went up topside, went to the front. I was beaten. There were about 15 teenage boys waiting.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's all it was at that time. And one of the boys, I said, put me up on one, the big vents, the big round vents that they have on the ship.
Uh-huh.
He put me up on top so I could still see it, but the whole harbor was foggy, was solid fog. Oh. So we waited, and pretty soon the fog, and was the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. So we all sang and were happy. By that time, everybody on the boat, on the ship, came forward. And if it was a smaller boat, that thing would have sunk in the
front
in New York Harbor. We were like this.
Oh, yeah.
But anyhow, everybody was so happy to see it. And it was nothing. I couldn't explain it any better.
So everybody on the boat just couldn't wait to get to America.
That's right. It was just something. But we were all so happy that we arrived. Then the next time, at the end of the war, my last job was at Nuremberg. We got on a ship at Marseille.
Now you're talking about World War II.
World War II, and then we started over. We ran into storms, and the captain had to go south to Carolinas. The storm was so bad, and I'm glad he did because there were waves 60 feet, if you can imagine. 60
Holy cow.
And at that time, Liberty ships had a propensity.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
In English, had a propensity for breaking in two.
Oh, no.
So the captain and the steward told us where to stand so we would be safe. Yeah, they were breaking in two with the big. So here, when they hit, they go up, and when they hit it like concrete, just like concrete, and that's what broke them. Anyhow, we safe. He was smart. He made a left turn and went down to Carolina, and then came up again. So the minute we reached New York Harbor, there's a statue again. And this time it meant so much more to me because we fought the war and we beat Hitler and we're a free nation again. It was really a great sight, the second sight. I now understood America and what it meant to me.
Well, it probably meant a lot more to you at that
More.
point because you were one of the defenders of freedom.
Yeah, right. Well, that's when the bulge first opened, I said, this can't happen. This just can't happen to us. America still has to survive.
Yeah.
And
I don't think people these days realize what you went through back at that time, or America went through at that time, because our freedom was in jeopardy.
Right, it was in jeopardy. It was probably the biggest war ever fought by the Army, and a million men in the Battle of the Bulge was the last big battle. 1 million men,
and you were in
almost
that.
1 million.
You were in the Battle of the Bulge,
right? And there were 450 on one side and 500 on the other, and Hitler thought that he would wipe us out. What he was working toward, believe it or not, is a negotiated peace. If he could hold east of the Rhine River,
right,
he could get a negotiated peace. So I read some articles where in his meeting he thought that the Remagen Bridge, which I crossed, going east of the Rhine, holding that bridge, going across the bridge, he thought was greater than D-Day. Hitler did.
Oh.
He said it was more dangerous to him because he wanted to hold. He said if we didn't cross the Rhine, he'd have a chance holding out the rest of Germany and then get a negotiated peace. But that bridge really sunk him because I went over at midnight and a shell came every 20 seconds. And there were gaping holes from our Air Force that went right through, and I guess they exploded down the river. They didn't break the bridge at all. All we could see the big hole.
Okay.
So when we crossed, I had a shell came in about every 20 seconds. So I told the men, watch it, and I also was afraid that the pouch with the flag would go down. I worried more about the flag almost than the man. No, we, every 20 seconds, walk down. It was the longest 1,200 feet I've ever walked in my life.
Oh, bad.
But I believe in faith. We crossed safely, got up to the top of the bridgehead, which we were fighting for. My captain came up and he said, Sam, you can send 2 men back on R&R to Paris. It was a nice break. So what did I do? I picked the 2 oldest men, one 36 and 40 years old. They were my 2 oldest. They walk and they get killed across the bridge.
Oh, no.
A shell came in and killed them. It shows you the day before we crossed, not us, we every 20 seconds down, but nobody got a splinter even. But the next day, these 2 guys go across, a shell comes in.
Oh, that's
faith.
terrible. Yeah,
but the bridge held. We lost 28 engineers, believe it or not, when they went down. They were working on it to stabilize because so much traffic went over from the 10th. It went over on it was captured on the 7th, and we were the first full division to cross on the 10th.
Okay.
And to do the bridgehead. And on the 17th, it went down. It took so much traffic and rattle. They tried to blow it up a couple times, and they claimed that the powder wasn't strong enough, and they lifted 3 feet off and settled down again. So the 7 people that were responsible for it got
The Germans, yeah.
executed by Hitler.
Oh,
yeah, he thought that was such a bad deal. So anyhow, we were lucky to make it, and that shortened the war by 6 months, from what I read. And
shortened it by 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that was a big impact on the war.
It was the only bridge left on the Rhine. All the rest, and they tried to blow it up, but it didn't happen. So we took advantage of it, and we went across.
Yeah, America prevailed.
That's right.
Sam, at the end of the war, once the conflict stopped, you had one of your duties to go to Nuremberg.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Nuremberg.
I was very lucky. At the end of the war, I get an order, and I was assigned to Nuremberg, to the Palace of Justice. That's where the trials were going to be held.
Yeah.
I was to put the building back in shape. So I had 100 men, 100 Germans, and I had 2 men with each one. They were all SS, so we had 2 GIs with each one. I had a carpenter shop with 28 people, and he came up and begged to leave because he lived in a little town. He said his business is going kaput and he wants to reestablish. So I was kind. I said, as long as you put somebody in charge, you go ahead. So he made a nice plaque for me as a going away present because I was good to him. Anyway.
So you had SS working for you?
Right.
No kidding.
We had 100 of them.
Oh, man, they were the worst of the worst.
2 GIs with each one, and they cleaned the whole building. They built it. There was so much. The first 5 rooms I had to get ready for interrogation. You may not know this, but all of the courthouses, and most of them in Europe, the courthouse is one side of the street, the prison is on the other, and they have a tunnel. They don't want to expose the prisoners to the public.
Oh, really? Okay.
So every day, 2 MPs and Goring, Keitel, von Ribbentrop, they come, and I was standing on top of the stairs. I could have touched Goring like this.
Yeah.
So every day this happened. I couldn't take any pictures. So anyhow, the first 5 rooms I had to get ready. The first room was for him. So I got it all cleaned up. I got it all, everything spick and pan. But it shows you sometimes you get stupid orders. This officer came from Washington as an observer. He hadn't been in battle, no combat experience. So he comes up to me when I got the first room ready. He said, Lombardo, he said, he's a full colonel, and I'm a first lieutenant. He said, Lombardo, would you go in Nuremberg and get some white silk? And I looked at him, white silk? What do we want the white silk for? He said, we want to line the room with white silk to impress Goring. I said, we just beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
I said, we just beat him, and you want to impress him with white silk? So I refused. You know that his face got red. I think he backed off.
I'll bet he did.
He backed off. The other thing that happened there, what was it? Oh, yeah, 2 things happened. One, a little old lady, maybe 70, 80 years old, is waiting at the gate at 5 o'clock, every day at 5. So finally, Colonel Corley, who was the highest decorated officer in the Army, was my boss, and I was number 2. He said, Lombardo, would you go out and see what that lady wants? She's there every day. So it shows you how the Germans respected power of patent. So I went up, I got an interpreter, went on, I said, what are you? You're here every day, what are you? He said, I want to see, I said, I want to see the Panzer General patent. That's all she was waiting there for. So you know they had respect for him.
Really?
Yeah. The other one, I got chewed out.
Well, wait a minute. Did you ever meet Patton?
Oh, he came, but I didn't see him. He came after I left. He visited. The next thing was at the...
Sam, I'm going to have to ask you to hold this thought.
Okay.
I got to take a break. We'll be back after the bottom of the hour update. In case you're just joining us, we got Sam Lombardo. You're a retired colonel, prior enlisted, and 100 years old.
Telephone colonel.
Telephone colonel?
Telephone colonel. I'm a lieutenant colonel. We call it telephone colonel.
Oh, I thought you were a full lieutenant colonel. Okay, so you're not quite a full colonel, but close enough. You know what? In our eyes, you're a colonel. We'll just go with that. We'll be back after the bottom of the hour update.
News Talk 1260 WFTW. You're listening to the Emerald Coast Morning with Dan Diamond.
And it's about 7:36, and we're back again. And I hope you're really enjoying this as much as I am. We have the privilege to interview Sam Lombardo, a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Army. How many years did you spend in the Army? 32, was it?
No, 22.
22. I gave you 10 extra years. That's pretty cool.
And 10 years with the government.
And then afterwards, 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with the government?
I was industrial security specialist. I inspected companies. I had 60 companies that did secret, top secret, and confidential work for the government. And I checked like top secrets every 2 months, confidential once a year, and secret every 3 months. We checked all our paperwork. We didn't do personal investigation. CSC did that. I wanted to make sure from the time the order came in until the item went out that it was protected.
I see.
So that's what I did. So I was in the Los Angeles area. So I had one major company like Aerojet General or North American Aircraft, used aircraft, 1 and 59 smaller ones, down to one scientist maybe making ammunition checkup in the desert by all of them himself. And I never saw more nervous individual than this guy. He was a doctor checking on ammo, and he said, "Sam, I'm not even allowed one mistake."
Oh, that's right.
You can't believe how fast I wanted to get out of there.
That's good.
That's crazy. And, oh, by the way, I don't know if I didn't mention it earlier, but Sam, you're 100 years old. You celebrated your birthday, was it last
12th.
month?
On the 12th.
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Oh, 2 days ago. I was thinking it was early. We had a birthday party for you
I got
earlier.
a beautiful letter from President Truman, Truman. Who? General Trump. They're both keys. From beautiful letter, long letter, and a nice portrait.
Really?
With it.
From President
Trump? I
Trump?
got it yesterday.
Oh, that's nice. Well, you spent a lot of time in the military, and more importantly, you're a World War II veteran, which is pretty
And Korea.
cool. And Korea? Wow. So you've seen a lot of things.
Right.
And we were talking earlier off air, and I would like for you to kind of talk about this. We talk about a lot of things off
Oh,
air.
yeah. All good,
but
folks.
the
All
one-
good.
Oh, yeah, very good. But I would like to have you kind of walk us through again
Yeah.
when you came to America for the first time as a 10-year-old, and you came over on the boat, and you told us that you saw the Statue of Liberty. Everybody wanted to see the Statue of Liberty, especially the younger kids, and you got here. But after you got here, your process of getting off of the boat and getting into America at 10 years old.
Solid. Yes, we had to go through, and everybody was nervous, of course, until you get through.
Right.
Going through Alice Island building. They just interview after interview, and they check you for communicable diseases, of course.
Right.
And I'm glad we weren't ill, because I've seen pictures of the hospital where people were put in the hospital under the worst condition, and they're there for days, until they get cured.
I see.
And a bad character, in case you were an ex-criminal, or
Sure, they want the criminals.
prostitutes, ill repute or whatever. Excuse me. And thirdly, you had to be literate. And that's when I told Mother that Altoona had 2 O's. She made sure she pronounced it.
Altoona, that's where you were going.
Altoona, that's where I grew up. So we all went to Altoona, and that's where Dad had bought in the country, built a beautiful home, and built a beautiful church. He worked 2 years in order to earn enough money to bring us over. Beautiful, and still I have pictures of it.
And you said that your father came over before you did.
He came over as a teenager. Oh, that's another story. He came over with 2 brothers, and all they had was 100 lire and a loaf of bread. That's all they come over with. At that time, they had steerage. The companies, to build up America, sent over and gave them free steerage, free transport.
Okay.
And they're the ones that built the Empire State, mines. America was going really an uphill of building. So they went over with ships and gave them free steerage, as long as they had a trade, I guess. Dad was a master mason, and he was learning. He was a teenager at first.
I got you.
But anyhow, that's how they came over. And he went
legally, they came over legally, obviously.
Oh, legally. And we went to Pennsylvania. And but I wanted to tell, because I tell all the kids, whatever they do when they're children, still come back to you later. You build up whatever it is. So I started telling where we had all the land with everything we needed. We were self-sufficient. But one was only a mile away. So they were stealing our watermelons. So my mother sent my uncles built a loft 20 feet high with a ladder, and my mother sent me with a pie pan and a metal pie pan and a lunch, and I'd go out during the summer months. I'd climb this loft, and when the one mistake I made, they planted the watermelon next to the fence. So every time people go over, it was easy to jump over and pick a watermelon and leave.
Oh, I see.
So I just stood there and watched. This was maybe a couple hundred yards away, and I rattled the pipe pan, and they'd keep going. They knew there was somebody there. They didn't know it was a kid, 9 years old. Anyhow,
now, this is in Calabria? This is in Italy.
Huh?
This is in Italy?
In Italy.
Oh, so you were the alarm.
But this was the scariest time in my life. But it builds character, I guess. You have to do some things you have to do. Going there, it's only a trail, and there's only one garden past us. So it's a dead-end trail, not even for a vehicle. Trail maybe this wide, and tall walls on both sides with moss and all. But anyhow, just 500 yards from where I came out, I still remember. I could draw you a picture of the whole thing. I remember it all. It was getting dark, and I had to come back. There was no way to go this way. I had to go this way. So when I got there, here's this restricted area in the path, maybe 10 feet of bougainvilleas and vines, over jungle-like.
Yeah.
Clear over to the other side. And a little wall about 3 feet high on this side. And there are two big iguanas. They must have been this big.
Oh, gosh.
Facing me. The wall is 10 feet high, and this thing over, there must have been 5 to 10 snakes hanging.
You are kidding. That sounds like a scary
so
movie.
I am. I'm 9 years old.
Oh, no.
What am I going to do? I can't go this way. I can't go over the wall because the iguanas were there. So I had to look inside myself. I said, I got to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for me. And that comes across later in the war. So I just bent over, yelled as loud as I could, and I ran through it. And I never looked back and got home. That was really a scary moment in my life. But this happened when I was faced with the similar situation almost. The last 3 days of the Battle of the Bulge on the Belgian border, and this took more courage than anything in the entire war. More courage. To get a Medal of Honor, any of the things we get, most of the time you act instantly. You see a situation, you got to act. You got to do it.
Reaction.
But when you have to think about it, it's worse. And it took more courage for this than anything in the whole war. We're on the Belgian border. Our job is to crush and clean this woods out. They didn't want any Germans left near the Belgian border. So we got there. So we're 3 companies in line, L Company, K Company, I Company. So L Company starts out. It's 1,000 yards I could see before it bends, and 200 and some yards across, and it's all covered with snow, 15 inches of snow.
Oh.
So I look as clear as a bell. So the first man from L Company steps out, and he steps on the mine. He's blown his leg, and he's moaning. Second company, K Company, same thing happened. Then it's our turn. Sergeant Leeds is my scout. So I said, Leeds, JJ tells me, Sam, this is our turn now. So I called Sergeant Leeds, he's our scout. I said, Leeds, okay, you can lead. He looked straight in my eye, and his eyes are opaque. I can't correspond with him, and he faints. He fainted me because these 2 guys are moaning.
Sure, yeah.
It's quite scary. All the men are milling around, and I didn't want to bolt or do anything. I said, and the first thing came to me, I said, I graduated at Fort Benning. At a time like that, that's the first thing came to me. I said, I'm the leader, I'm the officer. I had to reach inside of me and said, this is it, I got to do it myself. So I got all the men together. I said, I'm going to lead, follow me, but don't step out of my footprints. So they got it all. I said, if I hit a mine, Sergeant Rosen will take over. So I looked up in heaven, and I said, God help me. And I took my first step in infantry fashion, my left foot first. I still remember. Crunch, 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 down, nothing happened. Crunch, 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 down, nothing happened. And instead of going straight across, I looked across, and the reason I didn't go across like the other one, there's a bamboo forest over there, wild bamboo, not too big, all thin, but I couldn't get through it. I said, if we get stuck there, we're really going to be in trouble. There's no way. So I looked over here in a big bank, and I took a 45-degree angle, and I started, and for 250 yards.
Every single step.
Every step, I died with every step. That was more courage than anything I've done. I had to do it. And then when I got on the other side, I climbed the bank, and I hugged this tree, and I said, God, thank you. I looked back. Guess where my common commander is? He's the last man in the line. But it was such a sight because all the men are in my footprints. So the Army magazine wrote it. The 2 words, I said, do not step out of my footprints. It's pretty strong, and there's no way around it.
Right.
The other one, he said, follow my footsteps. Follow my footsteps, it can take it or leave it.
Right.
But when you say don't step out of my footprint is more definite. So the writer changed it. So
wow. That's quite the story, son.
Yeah,
Holy
that is.
moly.
I'll tell you, that's for 250 yards. And so I got on the other side, and then, the end of the story is we cleared the woods, came back. 3 days later, the March rains came, and all the snow melted. It rained for a couple of days. So we came back that way. We were a couple 100 yards away, and I had, JJ, can I go up to where we crossed? I want to see how many mines, what we did. As far as you could see, that I told you, the 1,000 yard was a cargo net. And the cargo net was 1 meter square.
Yeah, okay.
Big rope. And there was a mine in each square. Every 3 feet.
German methodical planting.
Yeah. And everyone, so I went down, and I took a private with me. I took a soldier. And when I went, I was going to lift you could see where in the middle of the square, it's a cut sod where they lift and put the mine in. I was this far away from lifting it up, and my soldier said, Lieutenant, let's don't stretch our luck. Yeah. So I didn't do it. But you see how close.
Wow.
A mine every 3 feet, and I was able to miss them all for 250 yards. So I looked into heaven, and I said, thank you, God. I know I had guidance.
Oh, you did.
I had to.
You did.
That was the most courage I had, because you had to think about it and do it. That's a little different than reacting to a situation,
Wow, look at the life that you've had since that point in time.
Really
God had a different plan for you.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
There was another. I got so many stories.
You probably do. World War II was probably one of the greatest experiences probably anybody could do, because
the whole world was involved.
Yes.
See, the whole world.
Just the fact that you did what you did for our country, and thinking that it was for the freedom of your country, and thinking that it was for all your family back in the United States of America, and then obviously being from Italy, finding what they were going through in Italy with Mussolini.
I have all my stories. I have a third in Italy, a third in Pennsylvania, and a third in battle. And I have a lot of stories about Italy because Mussolini was in charge. We had to get out every week of parade. And I still remember this old man, 60 or 70-year-old. He was bent, believe it or not, 90 degrees. He must have had osteoporosis. Every week the fascists made it. They were hoodlums, the fascists were not part of the regular army. But every week we had to get out and raise our hands. So the parade coming up, I'm 8 or 9 maybe, and I raise my hand. This man can't do it. 2 fascists come straight over. I can still see him. I remember the old man. I still remember him. And he couldn't raise it. They grabbed him by the neck and took him up to the dungeon, which was from 600 A.D., a dungeon. I mean, a real dungeon. They took him up. It was only a block away. The dungeon was completely solid building where the dungeon was, with a square hole about this big and iron bars across it where the people from a family could give them food because the police station didn't feed them.
Really?
The family fed them. And a bottle of wine, I seen them pass a bottle of wine through the iron.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's why they took them. It made me so mad. I was only 8 or 9. And that's just one of the things that happened. And then the flag was the most. We got time?
Sure.
Yeah. The order came out that all foreign flags would be confiscated, reported. They had to report all foreign flags. They were afraid of foreigners getting in there against Mussolini. So the order came, and Dad, he belonged to the Socialist Party because he was against the fascists, and an American flag we had. So Mom said, Sam, go up and hide it in the attic someplace. So I climbed up the attic. We had a fruit, and I still remember there's a rat with their mouth wide open in a trap.
In a trap?
In the roof where we had the fruit from our grow. I climbed and up on my knees on the rafters. You know how hard that is.
Oh, yeah.
With the 2 flags, there were small flags under my arm, and I went clear as far as I could against where the roof meets the ceiling, and I hid them. I came back, went down, and Mom is so nervous. She's white as a sheet. She's nervous, and we're waiting. And the mayor comes with 2 henchmen, knocks on the door, so he comes in. And I know what's going on, the whole thing, even at 9 years old. I'm between 9 and 10. So the mayor
Sam,
said,
I'm going to have to interrupt you.
Okay.
This is a good
that's all
story.
right.
No, stay right where you're at, because right after this, everybody come back and you can hear the rest of the story.
Okay.
We have the top of the hour update here. In the studio with me, we have had the privilege of having Mr. Samuel Lombardo, Sam, the retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, 22 years in the Army. And of course, we have Tom Rice in here as well. Tom, thank you for bringing him in.
Oh, well, I'm delighted. Sam's a good friend, and he knows the American dessert, apple pie and ice cream.
That's right. That's what I have at my birthday. That's the all-American dessert.
You betcha. And Sam, you're 100 years young. What was your birth date?
12 July, 2 days ago.
Gosh, that's great.
This
is a whole month of birthday parties for you, though.
We're working on the 101st birthday right now.
Right. So. And I have another one coming up. Another
party?
It'll be the 4th one. It's a catch-up. He recommended it.
Oh.
Because, a lot of people couldn't make it because although they canceled, they were going to have the Navy Air Show. And my son said there are going to be 1 million people over there at Pensacola.
Yeah.
And so he said some people won't be able to make it. So now I have a catch-up.
You have another party.
But you can visit with Sam, 1 or 2 days a week at the restaurant when he comes in.
Yeah.
And
you'll
just look for the young ladies, the circle of young ladies all chatting, and there will be Lieutenant Colonel Sam Lombardo.
Yeah, well, I saw the pictures.
There you go.
I believe you.
Imagine my second 100.
I guess. It's uphill from here.
And Sam, we had to interrupt you. I'm sorry because we had to go to break. But you were telling us a story when you were 9 years old.
We were on the flag, weren't we?
Yes, well, we were talking about you when you were 9 years old, and you had to raise your arm to the parade.
Oh, yes.
And they took the older guy that had, I guess, maybe some sort of...
He couldn't raise his arm, and I felt for him. And I'm right next to him, and I still remember him. And the fascists came, 2 fascists out of the marching group, came over and grabbed him by the neck and took him up to the dungeon. And the dungeon was only a block away, and it's from the 6th century. It's not a modern dungeon.
Right.
And all it had was a solid cellar with one hole, maybe 2 by 2 with bars across, and the family used to take food through this hole.
I see.
And that's all. This is 1929, and I've seen them pass a bottle of wine and also food, and that's the only...
They just threw them in there, and that was it, huh?
Really pretty bad.
Okay, so then the fascists come to your house.
Then the next
phase of supposed to have
then they came
because of the flags that you had
for the flag. So my mother sent me upstairs. So I was so careful, especially hard on the knees going across the rafters.
Right.
So I got the job done. Came back, stood next to Mom, and waited for the mayor and the henchmen to come in.
And the flags, kind of reiterate, the flags were not Italian flags. They were flags from other countries.
Right. And so pretty soon knock on the door and they come in, and my mother's white as a sheet. I mean, she was scared and trembling. And I knew that. I knew what was going on even at 9 years old. So I grabbed by the skirt and I waved, and she said, "Do you have any flag to declare, foreign flags?" She said no, but she was shaking, and all at once I broke into a tantrum as loud as I could and cried, and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And they said, "Thank you, madam," and they took off. They had enough of me.
Oh, the actor Sam comes out.
Boy, at 9 years old, that was a pretty smart thing to do.
Yeah, that was. I just went into it. I'm sure I knew what I was doing. You know, I just yelled and cried. They couldn't take it. They took off.
Well, Sam, moving forward, okay, World War II,
Yes.
supply is letting you down. There's no American flag to carry into Nazi Germany.
Oh, that's right.
What did you do?
Okay. 30 days of the Battle of the Bulge, from the 16th of December to the 22nd of January. And then also sometime after that, I didn't see one American flag. I went back for supplies and all. So the only ones who were allowed to have it was regiment probably and division in the back. And I got homesick. I really did get homesick. I said, I tell everybody, we take it for granted. We see the flag all over every block. Somebody's flying a flag. Over there, I didn't see one for maybe 40 days.
Oh, gosh.
So I got pretty homesick. So I asked for a flag. I asked JJ. He said, "Well, you're in a foxhole. We're not allowed to mail a flag to a foxhole, of course."
Right,
and I realized. I said, okay, it made me mad. So I said, we'll make our own. So the first chance we got, we're in a reserve, and we're in this beautiful, beautiful mansion. And I looked out, and I don't know if you've seen pictures. When a city gave up or was evacuated, everybody had a white flag out the window. You've seen pictures, either a sheet, a towel, anything white. They didn't want us to bombard anymore. They're out of there. So I looked out, and what I thought was a perfect size, I grabbed it. It turned out to be a 3x5. Perfect.
Oh.
So it came in. Then the pillowcases, we had fun with the pillowcase. They're beautiful red. They're this big pillows. And the blue was a big curtains, which they have high ceilings, 15, 12 feet. And you can see the picture in the flag, how lucky we were in the colors. Look at the colors. So the white is a white surrender flag. I call it a white surrender flag. And then the red, but we had fun with the red. People don't know, but the wealthy people with these beautiful big pillows, they're stuffed to tighter down, which is a little pin feather in the goose's breast. Can you imagine how many of those they must get? How many geese they must
Oh,
get?
that's a lot. They'd be hunting a
Anyhow,
lot.
the minute we opened it up, you couldn't even breathe.
Oh, no.
You know, all over. So we opened the window. GIs were playing baseball out there because we were on a 24-hour reserve. So they came out to the window to see what happened. I said, we're making a flag. So we got some water, tamed them down, and then we stuffed the material in a bag, and we started the trek across the Ruhr. And then every chance we got, I sent Sergeant Rosen, who spoke German, to the Burgermeister, the mayor, give us a sewing machine for the night. And we worked till midnight by candlelight in German cellars. And the Marxisan, who just passed away down at the lower left corner, I had to add him because he wasn't there for the picture. He was our aid man. He was an aid man. He comes up later, too. He got his surgical shears. I cut the first star, and then they took over. And every time we were in reserve, we go through the same thing. Go to the Burgermeister, bar a sewing machine. We worked till midnight by candlelight in German cellars. It took 2.5 months before we finished it.
God.
And every chance we had, we worked on it.
It looks
At the
good.
end, the platoon had a formation, and they gave it to me because I'm the one that started it, the project. So I tried to give it to the Smithsonian, and I'm so happy he was honest with me. He said, the Lombardo, he said, we get 1 million items a year for the Smithsonian. He said, we'd love to have your flag, but I want you to know that it would be displayed for a year, and then it would never see it again. It would go in the archives. give it to a local museum. And I should have done that in the first place. Fort Benny's where I graduated from. Fort Benny's an infantry center, so it's a proper place. So I gave it to them, and it's been on display ever since.
Oh, nice.
So a year ago, I took 12 people up there, and I thought it would be in the archives, and I'd bring it out for us to see. Instead of that, it was the most prominent place, the infantry section at the entrance. And then Mr. Hanner, the curator, said, Lombardo, he said, in 60 days, I'm going to exchange it with General Patton's flag over here, and yours will go General Patton's place.
Really?
That was a real treat.
Oh, my gosh.
And then it ended up with the two girls who were servers at the Benny's Inn, or whatever it's called, the hotel next to the, they said, Mr. Lombardo, we want to do something for you. Being servers, I was looking for cookies or cake. That's the first thing. We want to sing for you. And they sung Born in USA.
Oh, yeah.
And they were so professional. Believe it or not, they could go on Broadway. They were two sisters, but they were just professional singers. They're really.
That is really cool. So you, a lot of people recognize you for what you've done for our country.
Thank you.
And also being an immigrant coming over here and becoming a citizen of the United States, and then going to fight for your country, and then making it from an enlisted to a lieutenant colonel in the Army. I mean, you've done a lot.
And
with your
also,
life.
I didn't have a high school education, which is another story.
Oh, you didn't?
I had to drop out, and I didn't have to, but the depression was so bad. Dad was working for $8 a day. His helper was getting $4 a day. So I said, if I quit, I can get the $4 and I'll increase the family income by 50%.
Yeah.
If that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I was president of my homeroom. I played football. So I went into the president of my homeroom. I'm going to quit. He just about had a heart attack. Because in January, in the second semester, I said, I don't have to, but I want to help the family. We had 6 kids in the family, 6 of us.
How old were you when you quit school?
At that time?
Yeah.
16.
16, okay.
Yeah, 16. So I quit and went with Dad, and I learned to trade with him for 3 years, and it really.
Did you say your father was a mason?
A mason. He was a contractor and a mason. He was an artist from the old school. You ought to see some of his work. You'll never see anything like it. I'm sorry to say that it's a lost art here in America. You don't see any nice stonework. I want to cry when I see some of these pictures on real estate fireplaces or walls.
Yeah.
It's almost like children. They have no idea up here as art, because it's a beautiful. You can imagine the beautiful work he did. He did. Oh yes, they were homesick for California for good climate because we came from southern Italy,
Wow, yeah.
So I got out for a couple of weeks when I came out of the war, just to take a family out to California, because they dreamt about olives, they dreamt about grapes, and a nice climate. And Dad he loved to work more than anything. You can't believe, in Pennsylvania, come October, all he did was maybe finish the last fireplace for somebody. And we had to use Prestone. My hands were bleeding, actually bleeding, because a pair of gloves, 50 cents, lasted maybe 3 or 4 days. But my hands are frostbitten, and the alkali from a cement eats your hand.
Oh.
Yeah. So you talk about suffering. So anyhow, we did that, and then I took him out to California. Guess where he goes? The first job he had was Shirley Temple's.
Oh.
I couldn't kick him out of there if I wanted to after that. John Agar had just gotten married, and they changed their dollhouse, which a $65,000 home was a dollhouse. They made it their own, and Dad did the patio. And then he worked for Sinatra, Burt Lancaster, Dinah Shore, mostly the movie stars he built. And he never advertised.
Your family has been very deep in everything.
Oh, yeah. He never advertised. He always gave it to...
His word of mouth?
His word, about his work. They always named him by name. They wanted him. He's an artist, that's all I can say.
Wow. That's an amazing story in itself.
Yes.
Your father.
Oh, it is. I tell you about coming over. Yeah, he came over with the two brothers.
Right.
And then at the end of the year, the brothers got homesick, and they went back. And what did they get homesick for? The religious holidays, because in our town we didn't even have a park. It was 5 miles, 5 kilometers to the ocean. We went to there every year. But as far as the town, there's no recreation. Everybody just works. So I had a senior moment. What was
You're
Well,
allowed.
I guess in 100 years, you probably can
You're
have one
allowed.
once in a while. That's okay, because you got a lot of stories to tell. I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of things that happen in
he
your
built,
life.
So, Shirley Temple, Lancaster, Sonata, all of those. And so he was in seventh heaven. The first year in California, he missed one day due to bad weather. It used, for some reason, it used to rain at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning till 5. It rained at night for some reason.
Oh.
So he never lost it except one day, and that's all.
Well, there's that song about it never rains in Southern California.
Oh, he
And
loved it.
it's
He loved
pretty
it.
true, really. They don't
I'm
get a
glad
lot of
I
rain.
took him out, and then I took the whole family out, and then I left them and came back here.
Tell us about your Korean War experience.
The Korean, I don't have much to say. That's why Korean or Vietnam. I was in intelligence work. I went to intelligence, so I not only counter, I worked for positive too. So I sent agents across.
You did?
So because I spoke Japanese with an Italian accent, by the way.
He said Japanese Italian or Italian
In
Japanese.
Japan, I was in a repat program. What happened was all these ex-prisoners, Japanese prisoners over there, they come back and they could offer. So I had an interpreter, even though I spoke Japanese, and I had an interpreter, and every night we'd interpret somebody, so they got some intelligence out of it. We did that, and then I ran the officers club trying to keep everybody happy. And that's about it. So I didn't do much in Japan except the interrogation and create goodwill. That was my job too.
You did some interrogation as well, though?
I had 3 tours in Japan. 7
3
years.
tours?
3 tours. Every time I come back, I found myself in Japan again.
We have to take another break for the bottom of the hour. Do you want to stick around or do you have to leave?
I'm free.
Okay.
It's up to him.
He's your ride.
I'm just the wheelman.
Okay.
It's up to
We
him.
do have to take a break, and we'll be back in about, we'll be back at 8:36 or 35, thereabouts. So we'll be right back.
News Talk 1260 WFTW. You're listening to the Emerald Coast Morning with Dan Diamond on News Talk 1260 WFTW.
And in the studio with me, I have Tom Rice from the Magnolia Grill. Hello, Tom.
Good morning, sir.
And also Sam Lombardo. Sam Lombardo is a centurion. He's 100 years old. His birthday was on the 12th of July. And happy birthday to you, Sam. A little belated.
Thank you, thank you.
And
I'm working on the second 100.
There you go.
You're getting your first start here. I got you. Working on 101 for next year. And you've had birthdays all month long, and everybody's been celebrating you. And to us, you're quite the hero.
Good food I get at Magnolia.
There you
Thank
go.
you for the plug, Sam. Thank you
That's
for the plug, bro.
longevity right there's the secret to his longevity right there.
And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Sam Lombardo.
No kidding. And
he's
Sam,
a good friend, and we're always delighted when he calls ahead, and he is very popular in the dining room. He's never met a stranger. I will say that
can tell
easily.
that. I can tell.
And
that.
we have a lot of things at the restaurant that relate back to World War II. Our community from Panama City to Pensacola. Recently, 2-3 years ago, we wrapped up the honor flights. 954 veterans were taken to D.C. on the honor flight.
Is that right?
Day trips.
Wow.
And the oldest was just pushing 100. Average age was about 85, 86. And somebody asked, what's the connection here? And one of the things that Sam and I enjoy listening to his stories was our community's growth early on. When the roads came through in the 1930s, this was a tourist destination. These were well-heeled people before the highways came through, came by boat to Camp Walton, stayed in the hotels like the Gulf View, the Pastime, the Harbison, the Cedars, the Florosa, several, we have one of those left. This is all pre-war. This is pre-Pearl Harbor. But what was happening here, the clouds were gathering for World War II. Europe, Hitler comes to power in the 30s. England is resisting, there's all these events that happened before Pearl Harbor. But the community here was bound together with one thing that was the National Forest, Choctawhatchee National Forest. We had Gunner Maxwell that was using parts of the forest for training. And Mr. Plew, who was the Valparaiso Bank and Trust, that's now CB&T or Synovus, the Valparaiso Bank and Trust, Mr. Plew went from city to city, county to county in the 30s, having petitions signed to turn the National Forest over to training. So Eglin Field was the first field at Eglin was the Valparaiso Airport. When you land here today, you still see VPS on your ticket. This is a drawback to the Valparaiso Airport. So the main runway where King Hangar and all that, that we pass when we go out there, that was the Valparaiso Airport. That was turned over to the war effort prior to us going into war. So, things started happening here. After Pearl Harbor, Doolittle comes, that we want to strike back at Japan, and so Doolittle comes. Historians, are pretty sure that it was probably up there at Duke Field. Those were the runways that Doolittle used. Local Doolittles lived here. Sergeant Ed Horton, one of the Doolittle Raiders that's buried at Beale Cemetery. Doolittle himself came here. Dick Cole, great visitor to our community, the late Dick Cole, would come every year, and visit and always put a wreath over at Ed Horton's grave. But the connection to the community to World War II, our growth here, before Vietnam, before Korea, was World War II, so it's kind of it's a great, thing to have Sam here to tell us all the places he was, but that he's back here, and certainly a hero of World War II. So Sam, we're honored to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. I will do the same thing over again because I love America so much. People don't realize what a great country we have, and coming from dictatorship to America, and to realize, and the first people I read about, that's why I keep telling people that the first years in grade school are the most impressive. And the first thing that impressed me were the forefathers and what they went through to create. And they were my heroes, and they still are today. They're still my heroes, where some of the kids don't even know who you're talking about. They also don't know who the father of our country. We were so fortunate to have George Washington as a leader. Brilliant man and a capable man, and we're just fortunate to have him and the forefathers begin our country, and I hope that we continue to carry on in what they meant.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because oftentimes people forget about the sacrifices that our forefathers made to create this country. And unfortunately, that gets lost in the mill somewhere where they want to destroy the statues and destroy our history. But yourself, over in Italy, you already knew what was going on over here.
I knew better than anybody what you can have if you don't have the freedoms that we have here.
Sure, and you
when I
witnessed
read
that.
about John Adams going by horse from Massachusetts to Philadelphia, when Philadelphia was the capital, temporary capital, with these men on a horse, it's tough enough with the car today. But to go by horse all that time and all they went through and all his battles, George Washington, to beat the largest army and the greatest army in the world at that time was the Brits, professional army, and here these ragged free men in America win at Yorktown. It's unbelievable. That's what they got to appreciate.
Yeah, and so many people don't appreciate that live in this country now.
That's right, they don't, and I'm really disappointed. I'm worried. I really worry that I don't know where they get these ideas. They're socialists. Oh, the one thing I want to bring out, and this happens to many Americans, they make trips overseas to these countries, And they come back and they say, oh, what a great country. The food was great, scenery was great. They forget that they're traveling as an American, a free American. So I can hold my chest high. I'm traveling in Venezuela, wherever it is. I'm not a Venezuelan, I'm an American. And they're free, but they forget that. They go down and live as one of their citizens, and they'll have a different viewpoint.
That's a good point.
They don't realize that. They're traveling as an American.
That's right. And you come back to your free country.
That's right.
You go over for a vacation.
That's right.
And then you come back to where it's free for you.
That's right.
And you're down there, and they're happy to do whatever you want because they're paying the money.
That's right. But they're not there as a citizen. Go to Cuba, go to Venezuela, some of these socialist countries. Live there as one of theirs, and then you'll realize the difference.
You
some
sure
of them
will.
Some knucklehead.
Yeah, and I agree with you 1,000% because there's too many people in our country that don't appreciate what we have and the sacrifices like yourself have made to keep this country free.
Right.
And Sam, you while we were off air, we were talking about working hard, and you've been a stonemason.
Oh,
you've
yes.
you've done several
bleeding hands.
Tell us about why young people need to have an education. Tell us about your education. Your high school education ended when?
Yeah, the education, first of all, in Italy, maybe a lot of the old countries over there, the number one item they press, no matter what you do, get a trade. That's number one.
Trade?
As a kid, you got to get a trade. I don't care where you want to go afterwards, but have a trade, and then that is backup. So I learned my trade. I felt good. If I couldn't do anything else, I'm still a master mason, and I would go back to that. So the kids don't learn a trade, and I think that we ought to have more trade schools. And some of these kids, I'm flabbergasted when the high percentage of kids that don't graduate high school.
Yeah,
it's in the 39% or something like that. They ought to get out and have a trade of something. They come out and they don't even.
How did you get an education? Tell us about your high school education.
My high school, I didn't have any. I went to night schools, by the way. I researched in order to get I tell everyone, the first question is services. There's so many opportunities in the services, Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever you choose, Marine. The first question, are you a high school graduate? So I tell them all, get your education going through high school. Then from there, you can branch out and do whatever you like. But some people don't even know how to read or write,
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And count. I went to one store in California, and I gave her $1, and the bill was 95. I said, you owe me 5 cents. She said, oh, you're smart. For God's sake, what do they teach her? 5. She had to put it on the machine that she owes me 5 cents.
Computer's
That's
down.
the epitome of dumbness.
Oh no!
But you worked to, while in the military, you worked to get a degree, or you worked to get a high school.
Oh yes, over in Japan, University of California had an off-site campus, and University of Maryland had one in Korea, or vice versa. So what I did. At that time, I got enough credit. Language school was a year, and I got 15 credits for that. It was a tough year, and but I studied till midnight. Anyhow, I got through it, and so when I went to Japan, I went to night school, university. So I got about 2 years college credit.
Oh, okay.
So I did it on my own. Just push, whatever you can.
And that's
my work. Most of it was at night over there. So I couldn't do as much as I wanted to, but every night I was committed meeting somebody, and all of that stuff.
Well, sometimes life gets in the way.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, but anyhow, I did the most I could, and
hang on, Sam. I got to take one more break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I have Sam Lombardo in here with me, a retired lieutenant colonel, just turned 100 years old, and of course we have Tom Rice from the Magnolia Grill in here as guest this morning. We'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes.
News Talk 1260 WFTW. This is Emerald Coast Morning with Dan Diamond.
And we're back. Let me see. What is it? About 83 degrees right now. 8:51 in the studio with me this morning. We've had the pleasure and the honor of having Lieutenant Colonel retired Sam Lombardo, 100 years old as of July the 12th. And we appreciate him and Tom Rice from the Magnolia Grill coming in. Tom is his ride.
Sam still drives, and he does it very well.
Do you still drive?
79 years I've been driving, never had a scratch.
Oh, good on you.
Knock
Yeah,
on
knock
wood.
on wood.
And I told AAA, the number one item, when you're driving, distance is your best friend. And it is.
Yeah,
if
it
you have
gives you
distance,
time.
you can't wreck. And
Yeah, and not texting. That's also a
And
good.
I'm extremely careful when Sam's with me because
the one thing that really saved, and I worry about rear ending. Most of your accidents, like a two.
I just had that happen to me.
Here, where they're supposed to close, the number one item, one is distance, but the other, we used to do it. We used to have to do it with the old cars. We had to pump our brakes.
Yeah.
With the new cars, you don't. So you see these people going 50 miles an hour until they get near the stop sign and then stop, and sometimes they fail. I start 100 yards away, whether it's a stop sign or green light or whatever it is, and I start pumping. We got so many distractions today. We got the smoking, we got the talking, we got the iPhone, we got the cell phone. So by braking, the red light, a solid red light doesn't mean much to me. It's a solid red light. The danger, but it doesn't. When you pump, you flicker, and you hope you wake him up from smoking or whatever. And I'm afraid of a tailgating. It's my number one fear. So I do, and I think that helped save me.
Sure.
Go ahead and brake. You know, a lot of people don't do it because the new cars you don't have to, but I do it anyway, and I think that helps. So distance and pumping your brakes are the two.
Your friends. They're your friends when you're
That's
driving.
right.
There's no doubt about that.
That's right. 79 years, never even had a scratch.
No kidding. No accidents, no nothing.
And I drove all, different countries, foreign countries, and I drove here. And I would drive to California there if I get a Corvette, but the only thing I need is a white scarf.
we're right across the street from Hood Chevrolet.
I'm looking for a white scarf.
That's right. Good gosh. Sam, you've had quite an amazing life, just listening to you talk. Coming from, as an immigrant from Italy, coming over at 10 years old, and the things that you've encountered and the things that you've done within your life, including joining the Army as an enlisted man and becoming an officer, and serving our country in World War II, becoming a citizen of the United States of America, retiring after 22 years, going into the industry of winemaking, and all the different things you've done with your life. And here you sit at 100 years old, and you don't look 100 years old. You look like about an 80-year-old guy to me, honestly. Everything is, and you said you went to the doctor and everything's great. I mean, there's no way you need a walker or anything like that, or even a cane.
Not yet. I hope not.
No, I mean,
wow.
It's just you're really one in a million, I'm sure, one in maybe a billion. I don't know, but you've just had an angel on your shoulder for most of your life. It looks like
I have. I had divine guidance.
I really, there's not very many people that have lived the life that you have lived and be able to survive and get around the way you are, and mentally you're all there 100%, more than most of us. And I got to say, you're an amazing guy.
I'm forgetful, though, once in a while.
Well, probably no less than the rest of us, or no more than the rest of us, I mean.
Sam was up and ready before I got to Meridian this morning, though. He was ready. And
I was up since 5 o'clock.
And that's
the first time I had to get up before Reveille since World War II.
First Sergeant was picking him up.
That's pretty
and we love you, Sam, because you're a former enlisted. I mean, we both Dan and I will have to tell you as First Sergeants that means a lot having a, what's the Air Force call them? What when you're an officer and you've been a former enlisted?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember the
What's
term.
the name of that? There's the name. And it's not.
It's good.
I had one so it was also on they changed the title of the Army magazine, as I told you about the minefield. They changed the title, Step in My Footstep, instead of Do Not Get Out of My Footstep. The other was that a sergeant came up from another company at midnight on the Battle of the Bulge on Nelson Bourne Ridge. My sergeant is up, and I'm up 11, 12 o'clock. And the sergeant comes up crying. And I said, what happened? So I put my arms around him. I said, he needs help. I said, we'll help you. So I said, what gives? His patrol, he had a patrol 500 yards down, I know the hill, in a little creek. And he had a 10-man patrol, and they all got shot up, and he's the only one to get out. But the lieutenant is still alive there. So he wanted help to try to retrieve him.
Okay.
So my CO, being a jerk, he's asleep. So he said, "What can we wait till morning?"
Oh.
I said, "For God's sake, it's 500 yards of open ground with snow. We'll never make it." I said, I'm going down. So I volunteered myself. I got a man and the aid man and a litter. And with the sergeant, we went down. The blizzard was so bad you couldn't even see. I said, there'll be no talking, the blizzard whistling. I think that's what saved us. To this day, I always wonder whether they were kind enough to us, because a machine gun couldn't have been more than 75 feet away. The little creek is there. I know the creek. And the German line is right there. So, and the lieutenant is right here, 50 feet in front of the gun.
Oh, my God.
So he's lying there, and I said, so the medic gave him a shot of morphine in case he felt pain. He didn't want him to yell and go.
Right. Yeah.
So there was no talking. I said, we'll touch yourself, to signal. So we rolled him over on the litter, and we started up a hill. Every 20 feet we had to stop. He weighed about 180, maybe a little, almost what I weigh now. And the four of us, it was quite, to me physically, that was the hardest job physically we had to do, that I had to do. So every 20 feet, and finally, we go out about 100 yards and the flares go up, so we have to freeze. You freeze in the position you're in. That's how you react when the flares go up. So we go up a hill. We had 2 or 3 times like that. We made it to the top of the hill. Well, the article came out in the Army magazine again, and it said, I had rescued before dawn. It's poetic and it's perfect. We had to do it before dawn. That's what I told. Rescue before dawn. They changed it, said no lieutenant left behind.
Oh.
I wrote a nasty letter to him. I said, you know what that means? That I will leave a lieutenant or, a private or a general. I will leave them behind. No lieutenant left behind. It excludes the others.
Right.
That's not the rescue before dawn. We had to do it before. So both cases, they changed my title. They wrote everything correctly, but they changed the title.
The title of the article.
It doesn't reflect what I wanted, anyhow.
I fully understand
you can't
that.
have everything perfect.
You can't say that. It would be no troop left behind.
That's right.
More accurate.
No troops left. No troops would have been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no lieutenant. It just
it's like, well, the heck with everybody else, but we'll save the lieutenants.
Right.
I see what you mean. Sam, we're about out of time. Tom, we're about out of time.
All right, my friend. Thank you for having us in today.
For having us.
Yep. It was a pleasure and an honor. In my eyes, you're a hero. And it's just been it's been a thrill having you in here, Sam.
I did what I felt, and I wanted my duty, and I still feel a duty for America. I want to do everything I can to keep the country what it is, because I appreciate it so much and what it did for me, and what it's a special nation of all the world. It's a number one.
It is the best nation in the history of the world.
That's right.
It truly is. And you're a true patriot. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your service to our country, and you too, Tom. Appreciate you both coming in.
Thank you, Dan.
And we'll have you in again, I hope, sometime soon. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You take care. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.